Welcome to the Terrible Podcast with your hosts from SteelersDepot.com, where you can find all your latest and greatest Steelers news. It's Dave Bryan and Alex Kozora, always lit, talking Steelers. And now, here's Dave and Alex.
Welcome to the Terrible Podcast, Season 12, Episode 40. He's Dave Bryan. I'm Alex Kozora, SteelersDepot.com. Thanks for being back with us for this Monday show. Dave, Steelers finishing up their Week 7 bye, so hope everyone is well rested, the players and fans, and you and I included, and just got to enjoy some bad, aka weird football in Week 7. Some very strange and often lopsided scores in Week 7, Dave.
Yeah, absolutely. And, boy, you turn on, you even go back as far as Saturday, kind of a few weird games in there. What was it? The Penn State, Illinois game was
I know these.
Nobody wanted to win that one there. But I don't know. Stop complaining because we got to sit around and watch football all weekend there. So I guess that's a good thing. And it was National Tight End Day on top of it there. So that was quite interesting to see so many tight ends do well this weekend. And boy, there were trick plays all over the place. And is it me, or does it seem like teams are going for it more in fourth down situations where normally 5 years ago us nerds telling them they should go for it was laughed at? It seems like we're seeing more teams go with the analytics side of it now.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, you're definitely seeing an uptick there. I know Tomlin had talked about that a couple of weeks ago. He attributed that to quarterback mobility. I would attribute to the rise in analytics. And poor Dan Campbell in Detroit. I want him to get a victory so bad. They pulled out all the stops yesterday. They ran onside kicks and fake punts and all those kinds of things. And they were leading the Rams for so long and then blew that one late. And so I don't have another team I root for, but I want Dan Campbell to get his first victory with Detroit.
Yeah, but you got to admit it is quite comical to see how far a team can go winless in today's NFL. That's hard to do, I think, overall.
Mm-hmm.
You know, when you look at the kind of the parity, how watered down in a salary cap era and all like that, it's super hard, I think, for a team to go winless in this day and age. But we'll have to see how it plays out. I thought that the way that game started out, I thought, he's going to sneak up on him and get the Rams in this game. But the better team ended up winning, and they are still winless indeed.
They want to talk about what happened in Week 7, what happened around the AFC North, some interesting developments there. But I want to start with kind of the one and only big piece of Steelers news we had from over the weekend. The trade deadline for 2021 is coming up here on November 2nd, and NFL Network's Ian Rappaport had an article come out on Sunday morning about some of the names that are being floated around in potential trade talks. And interestingly, surprisingly, one of them was a Steeler, and it was not James Washington, it wasn't Eric Ebron, it wasn't Joe Hayden, it was Melvin Ingram. And so I'll read a part of the quote here from what Ian Rappaport had to say. Actually, I can't find the exact quote here, but it's basically saying that teams are calling to inquire about Ingram, and the Steelers are, quote, I think it was, listening and engaged about it. For whatever that exactly means, we're not quite sure. But worth noting that to some extent, it seems like teams at least have an interest in trading for Melvin Ingram. I would be very surprised to see it happen, but that is the report.
I imagine that it's okay to agree that maybe some teams are indeed calling the Steelers on Melvin Ingram. But with that said, look, if this team had a couple more, didn't have a couple more wins that they had at this point, I could definitely see them maybe entertaining this. Melvin Ingram went into this season with a base salary of the veteran minimum, which is $1.075 million. Now, obviously, they worked his contract and did the voidable years with the bonus and all like that. So. And here we are. If you were to prorate out the games that he's already played, his remaining owed base salary for 2021 would obviously be a lot less than $1 million now. So when you look at roster displacement at what what the Steelers would save just this year alone in salary cap space, take away the roster displacement part at for what it would cost to, even with a rookie at $660,000 to replace him, what is the difference there? And it's not much. I guarantee, I haven't done the math, but it's not much of anything. So basically it would come down to is, what do you think you could get in return for Melvin Ingram? Plain and simple. That and do you not like your chances of possibly winning? Are you okay going forward without having that depth at the outside linebacker position? And for my first answer to that question was, even if you were willing to save whatever it was you're going to save from the salary cap aspect and what you were going to get maybe in return for a draft pick, that's good depth right there, and it would not make sense to trade that away. So once again, it would come down to, if you could get a third round pick for him or a fourth round pick, maybe you entertain the offer right now, but you're talking about a 3-3 team right now, and they're not out of it. In fact, I think they're like the 8th or the 9th seed technically on the AFC side of things right now. So why would you go dumping all of your talent right now when you legitimately are still in this thing right now, and you got a key game coming up against the Browns? Now, the trade deadline, I believe, is on what do we say, on the 2nd or whatnot?
Right, so post-Browns game.
So post-Browns game there. Now, even if you lost to the Browns, all right, you're 0-2 in the division, you would be 3-4 overall. You're still not out of this thing, even though it looks a lot. It doesn't look as obviously as good, but you still have, you would think, 2 winnable games coming up against the Lions and the Bears. It would really have to be an offer from another team for any player, I think, at this point. Not just Melvin Ingram, but any player. It would have to be something that, man, that's too hard to turn around from a draft compensation standpoint, because quite honestly, most of these guys that you probably would be willing to trade aren't going to save you all that much money in cap space. Now, I know there was all that stuff about Joe Hayden to the Cowboys. That seemed to be fan manufactured more than anything. I haven't seen any credible reporter reporting that the Cowboys are seriously in talks to trade for Joe Hayden. But even then, by the time you figure out that you're not in this thing as the Steelers, it's going to be past the trade deadline anyway. So from where this team sits right now, I would be shocked if they have any players coming or going right now.
Me too. I think the 2 important points here is that, according to Rappaport's report, the Steelers are not shopping Ingram. I'll read the exact quote here. Quote, "With inconsistent playing time, teams have begun calling the Steelers about potentially trading for Ingram, and it does appear the Steelers have listened and engaged." So, teams are calling Pittsburgh. Pittsburgh's not calling teams, and although the Steelers are, quote, have listened and engaged, that just means they're not hanging up the phone. And why would they? He's not an untouchable player. He's not somebody that's a TJ Watt or Minka Fitzpatrick. You're going to at least listen to what teams have to offer in case you get blown away by some sort of day 2 pick, which I would be, again, shocked by, but you never know what teams might come to the table with. And then B, the question is, are the Steelers buyers or sellers, or what is their position? And as you said, 3-3, just won their last 2, kind of climbing back into this thing. Even if they lose to the Browns on Halloween, it's still hard to envision them becoming sellers in that instant after kind of getting on track and climbing back into this AFC race as a whole, and AFC North race even more specifically. So unless you got, to me, like a day 2 pick, maybe a 4th rounder at best, as you mentioned, that would be the least I could take for Ingram. And even then, a 4th rounder might or might not sway me, just because he is great depth. He was signed for that purpose. We've seen this team, lose Alex Highsmith for a short amount of time. Same with TJ Watt. And so if you traded Ingram away, who's your backup number 3 outside linebacker? It's Derek Tuska. It's Taco Charlton. Guys you have a lot less confidence in. Ingram fits in the system well. He fits in the off-ball 1-4-6 scheme really well. And so I just think trading him, unless you got blown away by an offer, just is not going to happen.
Right. And, moving past him alone. I mean, at this point, I would be surprised if they dealt anybody away. And barring some sort of massive, injury, maybe at a position against the Browns, I can't see them being buyers either at this point.
Right, because they just have the draft capital to give away to somebody. I think they could buy if they had a couple draft picks, but they're just the cupboards are empty.
Right. So I know this has made headlines, over the weekend here, but I would be surprised if anything comes of it.
Yeah, me as well. But that is the report from Ian Rappaport. One other piece
I'm hoping they kind of find a way to do something with Ingram to get him at least one more year in Pittsburgh, because he is that kind of player. But I mean, that's a topic for another day.
Yeah, he's 32, but not playing like a 32-year-old. So kudos to him. And I think he's playing better than some of these stats, or maybe lack of stats, seem to indicate. I think the NFL as a whole seems to have that feeling as well. Do want to mention, speaking of outside linebackers, T.J. Watt was fined just over $10,000 for the Mike Tyson punch-out fest that he had on Alex Collins in that Week 6 game. So no surprise to see him hit with a fine, considering he was flagged for it in the first place. But that's the penalty for T.J. Watt, both financially and on the field.
Yeah, I suppose I get it, but I don't like it. I mean, blow the dang whistle or something, and get those players. I mean, this is a team that's itching to try to take the football away. It's not the first time that we've seen T.J. Watt punch at a football in the arms of another player there. Okay, if he missed and hit him in the stomach or whatever, sorry. But I don't think he did it intentionally. Obviously, I think he was trying to get the ball out. But,
right.
Oh well, move on.
Never heard if Mike Tomlin was fined for his comments. I'm guessing he was, but that was never confirmed by any report. So just clarification, or I guess lack of clarification on that situation as well.
Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised.
Me neither. All right, Dave, any other Steelers stuff? It was pretty quiet bye week, which is how we like our bye weeks. We like to have a bye week, actually, which is always good because we didn't really exactly have one for this team and for us last year with the whole COVID situation. And, no news is good news on a bye week for the Steelers. No one got in trouble. No one, did anything that made them the headline of the day. And so that's always a positive.
Look, this thing sets up really good for this team right now. And, I'm sure we'll get into talking a little bit more about what we observed around the AFC North and really the rest of the NFL here in a minute. But you have a team in the Steelers that have back-to-back wins. You are on a bye week, a much kind of, never met a bye week that you didn't like, didn't think that maybe the timing was good by the time it rolls around there. They obviously probably aren't going to get Stephon Tuitt back this week, but anybody else dealing with kind of those bumps of bruises associated with play, as Mike Tomlin likes to say, those should all be healed up. The groin club of Pittsburgh ought to be doing a lot better this week as well, too. And a perfect time to spend some extra time maybe getting ready for your next opponent, which, oh, by the way, is the Cleveland Browns. And even though it is in Cleveland, they're having issues with a few injuries coming off of their Thursday night game as well. They're probably not going to be in the best of health when you face them. This is a game you don't want to at 3-3 say this is one of those must-win games. But when you look at what's going on in the division, the Bengals are obviously now 2-0 in the division. The Steelers, if they lost to the Browns, would be 0-2 in the division. It's kind of hard to make any kind of argument that the Steelers could potentially go on and win the AFC North if they don't win this game against the Browns this next Sunday, which, by the way, that's going to be on CBS, I believe, at 1 o'clock. I think Jim Nantz and Tony Romo and Tracy Wolfson are going to call that game.
Nice. So got the A-team there for one of the games of the week. Yeah, I agree with you. If you lose this game, it'll be much more difficult, obviously, to win the North. You probably focus on more wild card in that situation. But the AFC North as a whole is going to be just tough and competitive. I mean, you have the Bengals. They're first in the North and the whole AFC, aren't they? I think
yes.
One seed if playoffs started today. So it's a really competitive North, which we all kind of expected it would be. And they just absolutely boat raced the Ravens yesterday. Jamar Chase is going to be probably Offensive Rookie of the Year unless Najee Harris or Mac Jones has some equally big games their rest of their rookie season. But, this will be a big one. And as you mentioned, I think on a Terrible Take recently, if you beat the Browns and you have games with the Lions and Bears, and you don't want to take those games for granted, obviously, but you're in a good position to go to 6-3 after starting 1-3, which would be remarkable turnaround.
Is it enough to go 2-1 in these next 3 games if one of the period? I mean, you would really be disheartened. I mean, I guess if one of the losses were to either the Lions or the or the Bears, because that would be an out of conference. It really feels like, once again, that this is one of those must win, not must win games.
Yeah,
Against the Browns, because I mean, God forbid you go 1-2 in these next 3 games, but the way what's going on with the rest of the NFL, and you look at what Kansas City is right now. You look at some of these teams that you obviously going to play in the second half of the season, and that includes the Ravens twice, the Browns once, the Bengals once. I think the Chargers are mixed in there, and maybe they're not as tough as maybe what people thought they would be originally there. To me, you really got to come out of these next 3 games. It feels like 3-0.
Yeah, I don't want to say you have to go 3-0, but I think you have to go at least 2-1. And any of these, if you lose any of these next 3 games, it would be disappointing. Losing to Cleveland would be disappointing for pretty clear reasons, and losing to Detroit or Chicago would be disappointing just because you're going to be favored in those games. But it is tough to win 3 in a row. It'd be tough to win 5 in a row with the 2 wins they already have. So if you at least go 2-1, and I think if Cleveland's one of those wins, then you're 5-4, you're 1-1 in the North. Maybe the AFC North crown might be getting out of reach at that point, but you'd probably be in a good position to make the wild card, one of those 2 spots, the 6-7 seed. So I think 2-1 at the minimum, including beating the Browns, would be what you're looking for over these next 3 games.
Right, and my viewpoint is if you can get yourself to 6-3, then you can go 4-4 in the last 8 games there, regardless of how you do it and who you do it against, and still end up with 10 wins. And 10 wins, you would think would get you in the playoffs. I would think.
You would think at least a wild card spot, probably. I mean, it depends on some of the divisional type stuff, but yeah, I think 10-7 it would be what gets you in.
Now, obviously, if you lost 2 of these next 3 games, especially one of them is to the Browns, then gonna be tough to kind of dig themselves out of that.
Yeah, it would be. So, who do you think is the best team in the North? I think Matthew Marksy posed that question this morning. Obviously, you have the Browns whenever they're at full strength. They're a very potent team. You have the Bengals who, walloped the Ravens yesterday, but the Ravens are still, a good group, and they're going to bounce back. And then obviously Pittsburgh is climbing back into this thing as well. So who is like the top threat in the North right now?
That's a great question, and I would have personally. I still think the Browns. And I know they've gone through a lot right now, but they really seem to be, when healthy, the most complete team. And heck, they had an undrafted running back do what he did the other night there, and behind a line that's been banged up and included really a who is that at right tackle type thing. So I know a lot of people like to point at that and say, well, don't look at the running back and him being undrafted. Look at that line. Well, that line's been beat up, and you got a second-year player there at left tackle that's still trying to find his feet, in the NFL. Once again, you had a who is that at right tackle there. So, that kind of excuse kind of goes out the window, if you ask me. They're just really, coached well and disciplined and execute really, really well on the offensive side of the football. I think Stefanski's doing a great job there, and I think when healthy, that defense is good enough. For sure. But it would definitely be – I understand what the Bengals did, and here's why I think the Bengals won. Explosive plays, plain and simple. And we just got done talking about that this past week in a couple of podcasts there of the significance of explosive plays, and the Bengals had 10 of them in that game. And I think the funny thing about that box score, when you look at it overall, is look what the Bengals did on. Hold on here, and I'll pull it up here real quick. What they did on, let's see, where is it? Bengals. They put up total net yards of 520 net yards. I believe this is the second time the Ravens defense has given up more than 500 net yards in a game. And in doing so, though, the Bengals went just 4 of 13 on third down. You look at that, and it doesn't kind of add up to see a box score like that, and immediately you say, boy, there had to be some explosive plays in this game, looking at it that way, and that was indeed the case. They had 10 total kind of explosive plays. I think one of them was, play and then a personal foul penalty on top of it there, but they all count, if they're more than 20 yards, in my view, because you're moving down the yard, you're moving the football down the field, more, 20 or more yards at a time there. 10 explosive plays. If you have that many kind of plays in a game, you should probably win that game. And they did. I believe several of those, at least a few of them, or one of them at least, went for a touchdown. Actually, 3 of them. An 82-yard pass to Chase from Burrow was a touchdown. So not only is that an explosive play, that's a quadruple explosive play touchdown. So that's check that one off on your bingo card. You don't see too many of those. And then you had a Joe Mixon 21-yard run. And how many times we talked about, boy, not only is it good to get an explosive running play, it's like stealing when you get an explosive running play, and then you get an explosive running play that ends in a touchdown on top of it. So that's another mega jackpot for the Bengals there. And then another one, Samaje Perine, 46-yard run. So you get a double explosive running play there, and that one ends up in the end zone. And that's how you end up getting boat race. Oh, I take that back. C.J. Uzomah, my boy C.J. Uzomah also had a 32-yard explosive play touchdown on top of it. So if you want to know, and a 55, I don't know how I missed that. My eyes are blurry this morning. But that's how you beat a team like the Ravens. You explosive play them, and then not only that, those explosive plays end up in the end zone. When's the last time that a team had 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 explosive play touchdowns in a game?
Yeah, been a while, at least for the Bengals. Maybe the first time ever for the Bengals, but probably a while for the NFL as a whole. Yeah, I mean, you could make a case for any of those teams: the Browns, the Bengals, and the Ravens. I still might lean Baltimore as the team to beat. I know that's kind of blasphemous to say after the Bengals just beat them the way they did yesterday, but I still think Lamar's the best quarterback in the AFC North, and they can still get explosive plays, on their own. Hollywood Brown, for example, having some big plays there. Mark Andrews being such a matchup threat. I think that Ravens defense will improve over the course of the season. But bottom line is it's an ultra competitive AFC North. There is not a lot of margin for error, and you're going to have to win some tough games. There are no more easy wins against the Bengals and the Browns of yesteryear, and you're just dealing with the Ravens and having those marquee games kind of counting for how the North is going to shake up. There are no easy divisional games anymore, and Pittsburgh's going to have to win some tough, probably tight games to really get back into this thing.
Are the Steelers the worst team in the AFC North right now?
I think that'll be determined on Sunday. Honestly, I think you can make a case. It's certainly not the Bengals. It's certainly not the Ravens. It comes down to the Browns, who are just beat up and reeling a bit right now, but had a pretty tough, impressive win, I would say, against Denver on Thursday. So I think whoever loses Sunday becomes the worst team in the AFC North, and I think from a standing standpoint, they will be the worst team in the AFC North.
I agree, and that's another reason why it's a big game. And sure, a lot can happen. It's still a long season, and 3-4 I don't think is a death sentence with technically overall but when you talk about 0-2 in the division, man, you're going to really have to get to that 10-win mark, I would think, to get a playoff spot. I maybe 9-8 can get you in, looking at the way the rest of this AFC is going and all, but just win this week.
Yeah. Where are you at in terms of how many wins it'll take to earn the division crown? I know you were big about 9 wins kind of being the number to get you there. I think I was at 10 or 11. I think I had the Browns winning this one at 11-6, I believe, was their record. Are you still at 9 wins to win the North? Or do you think
and maybe 10 at most there, because I think I really, and I put this on Twitter and said it on the podcast several times, I really think this AFC North is going to beat the snot out of each other. And I think there was one evidence of that this past weekend with the Bengals taking it to the Ravens there. I would not be surprised to see the Bengals turn around and lose one. I think they play the Jets this next week. I'm not predicting they lose to the Jets, but I think if they don't have that game was so explosive play determined, right? And how many times do you really think that the Bengals are going to throw up 10 explosive plays in a game? What happens when they don't? Would be my kind of thing. I think you had kind of an outlier there. So I really do think that you're going to see, I don't know, Cleveland and Cincy probably split with each other. I think Cincy and Baltimore, Cincy's already up on 1-0 on them. I wouldn't be surprised to see Baltimore turn around and beat them the next time there. And hopefully the Steelers, can win at least 4, divisional games here moving forward. We'll see. But I just think the way this AFC North is built right now, and with the schedule and all like that, I can see only 10 wins at most winning it.
Yeah, I think it'll be a really tight race down the stretch. I think the records are going to be similar, but I think double digits is probably still the minimum for me, probably 10-7, because, you look at what Baltimore being 5-2, the Bengals being 5-2, are those teams going to win just 4 more games down the stretch, or the rest of the season? I should say that we're halfway through, so probably going to win more than 4. I think at least one of those teams winning 5 games, maybe 6 games, and because they're legitimately good teams, obviously. So I think it'll be close.
Which team is most likely to win the division right now? You would think Baltimore, I would guess.
Yeah, like I said, I'm still going Baltimore. I know that's a slap in the face to Bengals fans, and I'm not calling the Bengals win a fluke. They're a good team. They're forced to be reckoned with. Burr's playing great. Chase is fantastic. I've always been a big Joe Mixon fan. That defensive line's strong, but I'm still going with the best quarterback to me in this division. That's Lamar Jackson.
Okay.
So, but I think for Pittsburgh, 10 wins to get a wild card spot. I think 9 could do it as a potential 7 seed. You'd probably go into tiebreakers at that point, but 9 certainly at the minimum this team has to win, and that starts by getting over 500 on Sunday.
All right,
Dave, I do want to talk about kind of the speaking of future and what this team has to do with the bye week, kind of a chance to reflect. What are some key areas? I know we kind of touch on it throughout, organically throughout shows, but what are some of the key areas the Steelers team has to do post-bye to really get back in this race to ultimately make the playoffs?
Well, I think you got to continue to run the football well, the way they have starters in these these last, I guess, 3 games in total there. You really have got to build around that running game and then build off of the RPOs that you've used these last 3 games as well, and try to incorporate, I think, another aspect. That would be one, is keep that run success rate at 50% or more, and then building off of that, as we talked this past week, this offense has got to find a way to create more explosive plays, period. We got to be talking about 5, 6, 7 explosive plays a game, I think, overall. I don't think 3 explosive plays, 4 explosive plays on average is going to be enough. It can be if you get a takeaway or 2 and don't turn the ball over yourselves that way. But the easy way is to have 5, 6 explosive plays a game, make that running game 50% success rate or better. Don't have Roethlisberger throw more than 40 times in a game is another recipe for that. Then on the defensive side of football, it hasn't been awful at times, but they have gotten beat over their heads a couple of times and for touchdowns at that. But take away the football a few more times than you've been taking it away, and limit those explosive plays on the back end. I think, and I've thought all along that maybe we have thought that this defense could be good enough this year to be a potential playoff team. The question, in other words, we thought this, or at least, I thought this defense was going to take a step back a little bit, but maybe not still be as bad that it wouldn't allow you to compete for the playoffs. Really kind of disappointed overall, especially coming out of this last game, at where they sit from an adjusted net yards per passing attempt aspect, and the way they've had a couple of teams just really run the football on them. And don't think that the Cleveland Browns aren't going to try to run football on them this week as well, too. So, that defense has got to make a few more strides in the right direction there for starters, because if they don't, I don't believe this offense is going to ever be in a position where we're going to think, oh, man, they're going to kind of score at will, put up 28, 29 points a game kind of thing there. The defense is really going to have to help out this offense moving forward.
Yeah, for sure. And I think specifically where this defense has to improve are the takeaways. I mean, they only have a couple of them this year. A lot of chances, a lot of fumbles, a lot of balls on the ground they have not been able to recover, but only 2 interceptions. And those 2 interceptions have come from Terrell Edmonds and James Pierre. Kind of the 2 names you wouldn't have guessed. Now, the Edmonds interception was off a Minka tip, and so Minka, I think, played a really crucial role in that play. But certainly for a defense that has been as aggressive and as takeaway happy as any defense in the last 2 seasons, 2019, 2020, they have lacked there this year. And again, to me, the winning formula in today's NFL defensively is pressure and taking the football away. The pressure's been a bit hit and miss. It's been better as of late as this group's gotten healthier. That should continue going forward. But you need to see that translate into takeaways. They only have a couple of them this year, two interceptions, like I said. And so that number has to see a big jump post-bye.
Yeah, absolutely. And, once again, you need shorter fields for this offense, and that defense needs to start supplying them. I think this is a very much, at 3-3, and after all that's transpired right now with this team, and then the bye week on top of it. And look, I mean, you did have a banged up team to start the season, and you obviously had the players dealing with groins. You had a significant loss in here in Juju Smith-Schuster, but the way they were using him, how significant of a loss really was it? I mean, obviously you really missed that guy on third down, but it's not the kind of injury I don't think that you go, oh, well, there goes our season type of injury. Now, you obviously would have liked to have had Stephon Tuitt back by now, and that's probably not going to happen for at least a couple more games here, but I still think you can. They have the talent, I think, to work their way through that still, as long as nothing else happens on the defensive side of football injury-wise there. Once again, I view this upcoming game against the Browns and the way this thing sets up, and the Steelers coming off of the bye and 2 wins in a row, they've clawed themselves back into this thing at 3-3. This is very much a draw line in the sand type of moment, and these next 3 games are going to really, really tell us a lot about this team, I think, overall, because, A, they should be 3 games that I think are winnable overall, and one of those obviously being against the Browns, the significance, the weight that one has. At least you do get that one coming out of a bye week there on top of it. So, you're kind of starting to push a lot of the excuses to the side here, at least where it comes to these next 3 games, I think. So, and once again, I think if this team can get to 6-3, after these next 3 games, well, then let's talk. If they can't, then you really, especially if you have 2 losses in these next 3 games, you really then have to question what's going to happen the remainder of the season.
Yeah, if you're 4-5 after these next 3, that means you've lost probably to the Browns and lost 1 game to the Lions or the Bears. And so those are just 2 really disappointing outcomes. And that, I won't say it'll end your season, but it'll come pretty close to doing so. But if you're 6-3, then you're a whole different place. Then you kind of have the real tough end of the stretch of the schedule to deal with. But you'll be in a good place and have some cushion, have some margin, like you said, go 4-4, and you probably make the playoffs at 10-7 in that scenario. So yeah, defensively, like I said, turnovers, and they're just playing a lot of zone defense. I think it's some of the youthful guys there, some of the guys who are still trying to figure out, not wanting to get beat over the top the way that they have. And you look at the end of that Seahawks game in regulation, it's a lot of soft zone coverage. And I get you're trying to keep the ball in front of you and all those kinds of things, but I think in 2019, 2020, that defense would have played more man and would have contested the ball more, because Seattle just got to dink and dunk it and just kind of get 5-10 yards at a time and work all levels of the field. So that was disappointing, but I think it kind of sums up the way this defense has been. They're not going to blitz a lot. They're going to play a lot of zone defense. It's not going to allow for those chances for explosive plays because they're not contesting the football as often. So hopefully they get more comfortable with this group as this group grows, develops, guys like Trey Norwood and Arthur Millette and others, James Pierre, and allows this defense to play a little more aggressive so they can start taking the football away.
Yeah, absolutely. And, it obviously starts against the the Browns, and it'll be interesting to see. I know Dr. Mel, her terrible take on Sunday was about Baker Mayfield, and it's starting. I don't know. You get further away from the weekend and all like that. It's starting to feel now that Baker Mayfield might wind up playing in this game against the Steelers on Sunday.
Yeah, it wouldn't shock me. I haven't heard too much, concretely yet. I haven't heard from Stefanski yet, but my guess, as I said, I think last week, is that he will play. But I think the intent of holding him out Thursday was just because he wasn't ready. It was a short week, obviously, but then to have him ready for a big Week 8 game against Pittsburgh. So we'll see. It could still go either way. He's still going to be playing in pain, dealing with that injury. It's not going to be magically healed by Sunday, even if he does play. But my guess, as we sit here today, Dave, is that he will suit up and start versus Pittsburgh.
Yeah, and well, once again, you would think they would try to protect him the best they can with that running game. Starting to feel maybe that they might get Nick Chubb back as well too, and maybe put D'Ernest in there a little bit to kind of spell him and not overwork him in that game there on top of it. So I think if you're the Steelers this week, you concentrate on you got to shut down that run, because I wouldn't think if Mayfield plays in this game that they're going to want him back there dropping back and passing 40 times a game, right? They don't want him having to try to avoid the other Watt brother over there going back. And that once again puts the importance on this Steelers offense finding a way to jump on this Browns team quite a bit, because that's exactly what you want to happen. You want the Browns to have Baker Mayfield and the Browns offense abandoning that run as quick as possible there, so you can get after that quarterback.
Yeah, and then just as a quick preview for the Steelers offense, the number one matchup to watch will be Dan Moore, the rookie, against Myles Garrett, and that's going to be a big test for him. I thought Moore struggled against Seattle. He had some issues with Darrell Taylor before Taylor went down with that scary neck injury. He seems to be okay, but Myles Garrett is the elite of the elite, and so Moore's going to have to play the best game of his career, and I'm sure get a lot of help along the way.
Right.
And then offensively for Pittsburgh, talking future, I think, as you said, it goes to the run game. This team cannot be successful 9 times out of 10 without a run game. That's been proven by the collapse last season and the struggles early in the season before things started picking up, beginning in that Packers game Week 4, but then certainly improving more against Denver Week 5 and Week 6 against Seattle. So this team has to stay on schedule, stay on script, get yourself in third and manageable, all things that all offenses aspire to be, of course, but the great ones with the elite quarterbacks can deal with a run game that isn't working or a game plan that's thrown out the window because of game circumstance. But this team is not in that position. They do not have that type of elite quarterback. So this run game has to be efficient and strong. That's been the game plan the entire offseason. When this team was not winning, it was because of the poor run game. When they started turning things around, it was because this run game improved, this offensive line improved. So as I've said all along since March, the Steelers offense and by extension this team will go as the offensive line goes. And so when this offensive line has improved, so has this team, and so have their results.
If I would have told you ahead of the season, regardless of how it happened, if I would have told you this team is 3-3, and fairly that they have lost Juju Smith-Schuster for the season, and they have yet to get back Stephon Tuitt. But they are 3-3, and they're going into a game against the Cleveland Browns, obviously a key game. What would your thoughts have been if I would have told you that?
Would have been a little surprised to see them 3-3 after the quote-unquote easy part of the schedule. I'm using air quotes there because obviously there is really no such thing in the NFL. But I would have said, okay, you can work with it, but that's not ideal. Ideally, you wanted to be at least 4-2 to me, but 3-3 I guess was manageable. Yeah,
once again, I view this game against the Browns as really a measuring stick game, if you will, because I mean, if you lose to them, I don't care how you lose to them. If you lose to them, what does that say about this team moving forward?
Yeah, when you're 0-2, you've lost to the Bengals, the Browns, and the tough AFC North. It's not going to say good things. So I think that's a good phrase for it, because I wouldn't consider it must win the way I consider the Denver or even Seattle games to be must wins. But I think this is a measuring stick, a litmus test for Pittsburgh to see how legit is this team, or do they just kind of beat up on some underpowered Broncos and Seahawks teams.
Right. Obviously the 2 games after that, we worry about that after the fact. But, you still got 2 games with the Ravens. You obviously got the 2 more with the Browns and Bengals on top of it. And I thought all along that, and it is the case usually every year, though, the team in that AFC North that can come out with the plus 500 record will probably be the one that ends up getting in. So, is there a chance that 2 AFC North teams make it? Yeah, absolutely there is. But if the Steelers want to be one of those 2 teams, you better be better. You better at least be 500 in the division.
Yeah.
And if you lost this one, then you are 1 game away from 500 in the division at best.
Is it possible 3 teams from the North make it? I mean, the rest of the AFC doesn't look great. I mean, AFC East, what is their standings like? It's what does the AFC East even look like right now?
Well, it's not going to be the Jets. We know that.
Yeah, I mean, there's only one team above 500 in the East. It's Buffalo at 4-2. The South is not looking much better. There's one team above 500. That's the Titans, who are turned the season around. Had a huge win over the Chiefs yesterday. And out west, you might get a second team there. You have 2 teams over 500: the Raiders, the Chargers, the Chiefs. I'm still not going to count those guys out. So, your wildcard teams are going to come probably from the North and the West. It's a question of just, will that be one of each? Yeah, 2 from one. You get the idea. So, but it's possible that all 3 or the 3 teams from the North, it could be, Baltimore, Cincinnati, and then either Cleveland or Pittsburgh making it as the 6 and 7 seeds.
And once again, looking at, it looks like the Steelers are officially right now the 8th seed in the AFC at 3-3. So, obviously a lot to be, one spot out, you could jump right back in that picture with, obviously a win over the Browns.
Yeah, I assume if you beat the Browns, you'll now be in the top 7 seeds, right? Because you'll jump Cleveland in that scenario. So yeah, big game. I'm not going to call it must win. 3-4 is not the end of the world, but 3-4 in 0-2 in the North, and what is going to be a very competitive AFC North is a tough blow.
All right, what do you think about what's going on, within all that? I mean, Denver. What are your thoughts on Denver right now as they sit 3-4?
Not a legitimate team. They don't have the quarterback. They don't have, I think, enough elite talent offensively. There are some marquee pieces with Von Miller and Justin Simmons, but I just don't think there's enough there to compete with the Chargers of the world, even still the Chiefs. I'm not giving up on the Chiefs and the AFC North. I think the Bengals are better than the Broncos. The Browns are better than the Broncos. The Ravens are better than the Broncos. Pittsburgh, I think, is better than the Broncos. So I think not a real contender.
All right, what do you think about the Chiefs? They gonna figure this thing out?
Yeah, I mean, it's just hard to say no. I know it looks really bad, and I'm gonna stop picking them on our picks because I lose every time I pick the Chiefs to cover the spread. But I mean, are you gonna tell me the Chiefs are gonna be like a 8-9 team this year with Mahomes? I mean, I have to think they're gonna figure things out at some point. Maybe make a trade at the deadline here, bolster that defense a little bit. I just can't see them not riding the ship to some extent at some point this season.
All right, so we agree that the Chiefs. And I agree with you. I think the Chiefs will figure out something, at least get themselves into the playoffs. Is it hard to see the Las Vegas collapse right now and not make the playoffs in some capacity, whether it be, winning the division or wild card?
I mean, if there's a team that's going to do it, it'll be the Raiders in terms of collapsing. But, I mean, this team does look legit. They're weathering the whole Gruden situation, I think, really well and coming together as a team. So I think they are going to make the playoffs. And the Chargers, another team that could collapse. That'd be a very Chargers thing to do. But I'm obviously a big believer in Justin Herbert. And Mike Williams is having a really impressive season for them. So, yeah, I think those 2 teams are for real.
I think you're going to end up having 3 teams out of the West make it.
3 out of the West.
Right.
Wow. So that would leave no wild card team for the North. It'd just be 1 in the AFC North.
Right. I have a feeling that that's going to end up happening.
So you think in the AFC North it's winner take all kind of thing?
I'm starting to feel that way there, but obviously the Steelers can have a say in that because they still play the Chiefs and the Chargers.
Right. True.
Right.
So, yeah, it'll be competitive, and I think the wildcard teams are coming from the North and the West. Just a question of how many. I mean, it could be 1 of each, obviously, but if it was 2 from either side, it would not be the most shocking thing in the world.
All right, where to?
Any other just kind of final Week 7 thoughts? Just again, some bad football. The Sunday night game was in the rain. Colts come away with a victory in that one. A lot of weird scores, a couple of scoregami, so that was always good to see. What game was scoregami? It was the I'm forgetting what game it was. The 31-5 one. Was that the Cardinals game?
Was it the Cardinals game? Yeah, 31-5 was Cardinals. And what was the other one that happened during the weekend?
Was there another score?
Was it a 54-13? Was that?
I don't think that was scoregami.
Okay. Was it?
If you don't know what score, what's that?
Was it only the Cardinals game? I thought there was another one in there.
I think there were some that were close because there were a lot of games that were 5. It was like 5-3 in that Giants game for a while there. If you don't know what scoregami is, by the way, it's scoregami is whenever the first unique score ever occurs. So that was the first 31-5 final score in NFL history yesterday between the Cardinals and the Texans. So that is scoregami. There's a popular Twitter account that tracks all that stuff. But yeah, just some weird, bad football, which we kind of knew going into this thing. We made our picks. We kind of went, oh, there's some big spreads there and some not great matchups. And that kind of proved true over the weekend.
I wonder if he tags everything with that scoregami. I think he does, doesn't he?
Yeah, whenever the scoregami he tweets out, that's scoregami. And I think that Cardinals game was the only official one. Yeah, all right. But all right, Dave. So any other final thoughts there from week 7? I mean, it was just, some kind of boring football, but you take that on a bye week.
Anything? Did you watch get invested in any of the college games on Saturday, or look at any prospects or anything, or study any quarterbacks or anything?
I just watched casually. I watched the 9 overtimes in the Penn State game, which was not much to scout in that one, other than it was just bad. I don't like that new rule about the whole sudden death 2-point conversion, because it was very confusing to me because I didn't know that was the new rule, and so I was confused about why there were repeated 2-point conversion attempts for a moment because I had the game on in the background. But I just think that's just such watering down what football is. I'm going to be the old man that yells at the cloud there and say I do not like that rule.
All right, what'd you think about Pitt's win?
Yeah, I did catch most of that game over Clemson. Man, Pickett is for real. I mean, I think he's playing obviously unbelievably right now, and so he's putting himself in the conversation for being one of the top quarterbacks in this draft. And is there a chance that he could stay in Pittsburgh if you're picking up what I'm laying down here come the April's draft?
I would be surprised, but nothing's impossible. When at least me, where I starting to get a little bit better grasp, I think, on this year's quarterback class. He's obviously, I think, Pickett's top, in the top 3 discussion when it comes to that. Will he end up being the top guy? I think it's hard to say. I still have a lot of tape to watch on that. I think there's no denying, though, that he is probably one of the top 3 quarterbacks in this class. It just really overall, top to bottom, to me, from what I've seen so far, this, once again, this isn't that kind of, 2004 class, if you will. It feels kind of watered down. A lot of, I guess, non-traditional, shorter kind of players. I even think isn't Pickett technically under 6'2"? Isn't he
is he
6'17" or something like 6'017" or something like that there? And you look at arm strength overall at this class, outside of maybe Carson Strong, and even Carson Strong, I don't view as having an elite arm when it comes to this year's class. I'm not finding a lot of elite arms in here either. Now there are a couple, and Pickett's one of them that can give you some play outside of the pocket. Carson Strong's not that guy. Carson Strong's going to be more of your, I guess, Mac Jones, but Mac was a little bit, more give the ability to have some sort of off schedule, off script type of performance there. If you're looking more for a pocket passer and okay with not having quarterback that can give you something off script or extend the play, then Carson Strong's probably going to be your kind of guy. Pickett, I think, can give you that ability to move the pocket a little bit. I mean, heck, he picked up a couple of third downs with his legs late in that game against Clemson there. Not that you want your quarterback running a lot in the NFL if it was up to me, but at least he does give you that ability there. But overall, from what I've seen so far on Pickett, I don't come away with, man, that guy's a can't miss. Really, none of these guys in this class so far, and that includes Carson Strong, who I watch every week. Right. I don't get the feeling of, oh man, got to go up and get that guy kind of thing. And someone asked me point blank over the weekend on Twitter, at 18th overall, would I pick Carson Strong? And my answer right now is no. And it probably shocked a lot of people when I said that. But I mean, I kind of view him as a late first round, kind of second round guy from where I'm at right now because of the knee injuries he's had, because of factors like he's not that extend to play type of guy there. That would lead me to believe that. In fact, would I probably have Pickett ranked over Carson Strong right now? Yeah, probably. But Pickett's not a guy that's going to, at least from what I've seen, really stretch the field with that arm strength on you on top of it there. So I guess what I'm getting at here is, to me, it's not a great 2022 draft is not going to be a year for quarterback needy teams, I don't think. And if we are to believe all that stuff from Jay Glazer a couple of weeks ago about how Mike Tomlin's not looking to be in the business to start over with a rookie quarterback there, it kind of leads you to believe that this team's not going to draft a quarterback in the first round, especially if they are a middling team once again and end up 20th, picking 19, 20, 21, 22 right around in there. Because then I would think that if you're going to get one of the top ones in the class, you're going to have to go up to go get them.
Yeah, no, I agree. I don't want to hold you to this because I know we're both formulating our thoughts on draft related stuff, and I have no opinions on any of this right now. But you said you wouldn't take Carson Strong in this hypothetical 18th. Would you take Kenny Pickett 18th overall, hypothetically?
I probably wouldn't. No.
Okay. Are there any quarterbacks you've watched that you would consider to be kind of a worthy of a 18th overall pick?
Maybe the Liberty kid Malik, but I haven't watched enough. I've watched the highlights on him, and watched a quarter or two of him play. But look, the Mississippi kid Corral, maybe those two probably end up having the best chance at least from what I've seen so far. And I haven't gone as deep on either one. I've watched more, obviously. The most I've watched of is obviously Carson Strong. I've seen every game of his the last 2 seasons. All right, so I got a good feel on what he is and isn't. Kenny Pickett almost by default, because Pitt, you obviously pay attention to Pitt and all the hype on him. Pickett's probably the next guy that I've seen the most on as far as tape goes. The rest of those guys, Corral and Malik and all like that, and Ritter, I've watched a little bit of Ritter. I just haven't watched enough of those guys to have a fully educated opinion on yet. So.
Yeah, no, that's fair, and I'm with you. How did Carson Strong play this weekend, by the way? I know you were watching.
I thought he played okay. He had, his interception was an ill-advised throw. Was probably his worst throw of the season. But man, he made some throws in that game, and most notably on that final drive there, drilling that thing in down the middle of the field in between 3 defenders there. That might be his best throw of the season, right there. But once again, he is a guy that can probably has one of the best arms in this class, and obviously plays that air raid offense and all. But on top of it, there are times where you think, man, get out of the pocket, go make a play, and he doesn't. Because he can't. It's just not who he is. And the times that he does take off with the football, running for it, you do kind of cringe at times. I like him. I think he has a chance to be one of those second round guys that maybe might surprise you, but I'm not so sure if I was a quarterback needy team at this point, I would want to tie my wagon to him. I would be more apt to probably tie it to Kenny Pickett than I would him. But even so, once again, from where I sit right now, I'm not sure that you get a lot of warm and fuzzies about any of these guys being kind of not miss kind of guys.
Right, that seems to be the consensus. And even if that guy existed, Pittsburgh, in all likelihood, would not be able to get that guy because they're not going to be picking in the top 5 this year. They're going to be picking in the teens probably somewhere. And so even if there was a Trevor Lawrence in this class, that guy's not even going to be a viable option for Pittsburgh. So I agree, it's not a great class. But again, even if it was a good class in terms of having 1 or 2 blue chip kind of guys, they wouldn't even be on the table for the Steelers.
And looking at, I know this about Carson Strong because I've seen all of his games. I mean, Carson Strong can, technically make any throw on the field for you. He throw the back shoulder, throw the fade, throw down the middle, throw the deep ball, throw the outs and all like that. So I've seen enough that I know he can make every throw. I don't know quite yet if Pickett, I've seen enough where I think Pickett can make a lot of those throws. But here's the thing, too, only at least from what I found, and Pickett's obviously the most experienced of the bunch here. I've only found 2 completed passes of more than 45 air yards for Pickett, and that's his entire college career.
Okay?
Yeah,
that's pretty light.
And his longest completed one was exactly 50 air yards, and his second longest completed was like 45 or 46 completed air yards. Okay, that's fine technically, but to me, and if you really want to be a threat in the NFL, you got to be able to throw that thing 60 yards at least, I think.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, obviously Steeler fans are experiencing what it's like to be a little limited downfield with Ben the last couple seasons. So do you want to have maybe some of those same issues if you had a guy like Pickett, and if the play overall was a bit better, ideally? So that's a fair point.
But once again, I've only really know one of these quarterbacks in this class, but I know everybody wants, is already to that point where they want to talk about draft and all, and I find myself trying to pay a little bit more attention to this college stuff. What have you been paying attention to? Just kind of surface area type stuff, or no?
Yeah, I'm not nearly as deep as you've gotten to, but I was going to ask you, though, just overall, if it's not quarterback, and I think you're right that there's a good chance it won't be a quarterback in the first round. Again, this is a very extremely broad question to ask, but where do you think this focus is at for this team in round 1? Is it going to be offensive line, right guard, right tackle, or is it going to be somewhere else presenting a bigger need?
I think it's going to be either interior offensive lineman or I think it's a wide receiver, to be honest.
Really?
With you. That I mean, it's not going to be running back, right?
Right.
Could it possibly be a tackle? I mean, generally, the Steelers just don't have a history of taking a tackle in the first round, right? And especially if they don't draft, if you don't get one of the best ones in the NFL, top 5, top 10 pick in that, I could see them kind of waiting there. Now, guard, interior offensive lineman is a little bit different story because, as we've seen in the past, that position tends to get pushed down a little bit. And obviously, with Trey Turner probably not going to be back, the things going on at center, will they move that kid to go back to guard? I don't think they should, but you could foresee them needing another guard in there. And obviously, I think with wide receivers going to be, after not drafting a wide receiver this past year, I could really see them going wide receiver. So I think if I were to lay my money down right now, and assuming they keep their first round pick, no matter where that first round pick is in the round, I would tend to think it would go either, and this is no particular order, guard, wide receiver, I guess corner. As much as I hate this team picking with their history of not doing well at drafting corners, I would lend to one of those 3 positions right there if I was to put my money down right now.
And if they went receiver, you're thinking slot because you'd have Deontay and Claypool on the outside, right?
I wouldn't, Alex. I would think about moving Claypool into that big slot permanently.
They don't seem enthused about the idea, though.
Maybe picking up a free agent along the lines that can play in the slot or whatnot, but I want somebody that can go down to the stop sign in a hurry down there.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, I get that. And would safety be a consideration if Terrell Edmonds walks here?
I mean,
Kyle Hamilton probably, but it may be some second-tier safety.
Yeah, but I mean, where does the value come? I've always subscribed to the Bill Parcells theory that the closer to the football, the more valued the pick is.
Right, but this team they drafted the safety in the first round.
Yeah, they have
the first rounder for a safety, so they seem to be afraid. They're not afraid to use first round picks on safeties.
I will bet that it doesn't happen, but I'm not going to say that it's not something that couldn't happen, because obviously with the Edmonds thing, it would have to be a hell of an athlete, though. It would have to be a heck of a twitchy, strong safety, Troy Polamalu-like type of player, right?
Yeah. They fall in love with those athletes. Not Troy types, but Edmonds was that kind of guy, that super athlete.
That player better have some takeaways coming out of college, man. And better be super sparky. Once again, is it possible? Absolutely. I mean, heck, for all we know, maybe inside linebacker is possible.
Right.
But
there's a million variables that could change and will change from here to now.
All right, where would you put your money at first round pick right now? It's a long way out here. A lot of things can happen.
Yeah, offensive line, probably right guard is what I'm looking at. Maybe right tackle as well, because I don't know what's going to happen with a core 4 and Banner. He'll be under contract, but the guy may not have a start this season. So I'm thinking right guard, right tackle. I think there's a kid from Boston College that's kind of a road grader. I forget the name right now, but that's always a good school to take a guard from. So I think improving that offensive line to help that run game and probably helping out whatever different quarterback is under center next season.
I mean, what if you could get the Iowa center, and then decide what either play him at guard or center and move. Obviously Kendrick Green would have to move at that point, but he's probably going to end up winning the Remington Trophy this year.
Yeah, I would be happy with that. And then if you have to figure out what to do with him or Green, you figure it out. I mean, maybe Green would go back home to left guard, and Dawson technically goes back home to right guard, but Linenbaum can move to right guard probably, potentially. So, I would not be opposed to that in terms of just getting a good quality offensive lineman in the first round.
What kind of who would Linderbaum right now, if you were to loosely form a who's the leader in the clubhouse kind of guy? You'd have to think he's up there, right?
Oh yeah, he's definitely up there. I mean, again, I'm not the draft guy right now. I'm trying to think who that guard was. I think named Zion Johnson. I think was the guy to watch out of BC. I don't know exactly how well he's done this season, but I think the Iowa kid is going to be one of the top offensive line prospects. Which means will he get to Pittsburgh if they're picking 19 or 20? I mean, I know that interior guys could fall a bit, but if he's one of the top guys, he may not get to Pittsburgh there.
All right, Peter King has weighed in on the Aaron Rodgers. I know everybody's been waiting for this portion of the podcast here. Peter King's thoughts on something. He's weighed in on Aaron Rodgers on his weekly segment on NBC Sports Pro Football Talk. He says, I think still the best idea for Denver is to hope Aaron Rodgers wants out of Green Bay next February. The Packers, if Rodgers insists on a trade, would want to send Rodgers to the AFC. Rodgers might want Pittsburgh, but my guess is Denver would offer more. Peyton could put together a very good package, or is that Patton?
Patton, it's George Patton. GM,
George
right?
Patton.
Unless Peyton Manning's done something crazy in the last, that's what the last 2 weeks doing.
I don't have my glasses on here. Patton could put together a very good package and still likely have a good receiver group for Rodgers. Of course, Rodgers, as I've written, could also wait till March 2023, be an unrestricted free agent at 39 and choose his last home from any of the other 32 teams. The status of Rodgers could be the story for the next 2 off seasons.
Yeah, I mean, that's all speculation, obviously. It's saying that it could happen. It's saying a lot of things could happen. But I think it is increasingly likely, and I mentioned this last week, that Rodgers just stays in Green Bay. They're winning. He's playing really well. He seems happier with where he's at. It seems like the front office, the organization is more receptive to the changes he wanted. So we'll see how the season ends. Obviously, if things go sideways in the playoffs, that might create a little bit of bad blood and a sour taste in their mouth. But I think the odds of Rodgers staying in Green Bay are much, much higher than they felt, 2-3 months ago.
I feel that as well, too. It feels like once they got past this kind of line in the sand for him and Rodgers kind of wanting to make his point made and then getting the franchise, I guess, to so and speak, bend, kind of like they did do this past offseason. And the way this season's going for them, I mean, right now, from where I sit, I think Green Bay's one of those teams that you got to really think has maybe a chance to at least threaten Tampa Bay, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, for sure. I mean, they were obviously close last season. So if Rodgers if he wants to stay in Green Bay and he can convince Devontae Adams to re-up in Green Bay, then I don't see what the appeal for Rodgers is to go somewhere else and try over with a new team other than being out west and being closer to, I think, family and kind of where he wants to be ideally from a location standpoint. But that won't be enough to make him want to get out of Green Bay if just to be in Denver or San Francisco just for the location of it all.
And how do you what do you sell it to them as far as wide receivers? Well, we got Deontay Johnson over here, and we got Chase Claypool, and we'll draft whichever one you want us to draft here. Maybe Aaron, not that they're going to do that, obviously, but you get the point there, and this offensive line, well, it came together a little bit, and we got your running back. To me, it sounds like you'd really have to be used car selling it, I think.
Yeah, I mean, I think there's an appeal to come to Pittsburgh because I think Rodgers is obviously sold on Mike Tomlin. I think there would be talent for him to work with, so it wouldn't be like he's starting over. But just is the grass going to be greener for Rodgers in that scenario? If you're coming off a really strong year in Green Bay, they're going to have Bakhtiari and Adams and Aaron Jones and those kinds of guys. I mean, do you really want to take that chance and go somewhere else late in your career? Maybe, but at this point, it's looking like probably not.
All right, it's a bye week. Let's make some more kind of definitive predictions here for everybody to chew on here. True or false? The Steelers will draft a quarterback in the first round of the 2022 NFL draft.
You're hitting it hard early.
Might as well.
As we see there right now, although I would be in favor of the idea, I'm going to say false.
I will say false as well too. Aaron Rodgers will be a member of the Pittsburgh Steelers in 2022. True or false?
False.
I will say false as well too. What's something else that's more definitive that we can throw out there for the folks?
Is the Steelers Week 1 2022 quarterback on the roster today? True or false?
True.
Okay, and I'm guessing you're going to say Mason Rudolph?
Yes.
I'm going to say false, that he's not on the roster. It's going to be a veteran somewhere else.
Okay. Give us something else definitive to throw out there. True or false? The Steelers will pick up the fifth-year option on inside linebacker Devin Bush.
As we see there today, I'm going to say false.
I'm going to say false as well, too.
I had a feeling about that one.
What else?
Here's one. Najee Harris is on pace for 96 receptions this season. That'd be the second most of any rookie ever in NFL history. Over under 90 receptions for Najee Harris this season.
Under.
What's a good over-under? I think 90 maybe is a bad number. Is 80 a good over-under for that question? He's at 36.
Why do I feel like 75 might be the number?
Might be the number. Okay, if I gave you 75, would you be over-under?
I'd probably be inclined to take the over there.
So they're going to run 80 for him? I'm kind of in that 75-80 range as well. But 96 receptions. That's crazy. I mean, it's a lot of dump-offs, but I mean, he's going to blow that. He's going to pass that Claypool record in like 3 weeks. I mean, it's ridiculous, but that's what they drafted him for.
What else more related to next offseason?
Let's see. Will the Steelers? Is the Steelers Week 1 2022 right tackle on the roster right now?
Week 1.
Yeah, whoever the starting right tackle is of next season, is that guy on the roster now? Or
I'll say true, but I don't think this thing is played out the way they kind of hoped it would play out.
Who is that? Are you saying?
I think it's Banner.
Banner. Okay.
And if they put that guy can stay healthy, I think he at least gets to that starting point. If he can stay, whether or not he keeps it throughout 2022, obviously depends on a lot of things there. But I think as we sit here right now, I would say true that because they also have Haig still under contract too. So that's true. Not that you want to get to that point, I don't think. But man, for them to throw. What would it look like if having thrown a little bit of, and it wasn't a lot, but, throw a little bit of money at both Banner and Haig, and both those guys don't end up being week 1 starter.
Yeah, well, I'm okay with Haig because Haig was never envisioned to be the guy. Banner was supposed to be the guy, and I'm not sure if he is going to be at least the rest of this season.
Okay.
To answer that question, I'm going to say true as well, just because of the options. There's too many guys that could be the guy. Banner, Haig, Okorafor gets re-signed for me to go false on that one. I think right guard, though. New right guard's coming.
I do too.
Any other questions? Will Kevin Colbert be the GM of this team in 2022?
Yeah, that's a good one, isn't it?
I mean, there's limited information to go off. It's all just kind of what he wants to do. But I think...
why it goes into the whole groceries and shopping and kind of thing like that, because he's he's signed through the draft, right? Do you if you're going to let somebody else be the general manager, wouldn't you want that person to have the most say in the draft process?
He wouldn't retire after the draft. He would retire after the season ends.
Right.
Because, I mean, I think all contracts go through the draft just because of the way that they're structured. But if he were to retire, it'd be right after the season.
Because he had, there's no signs of him leaving yet. I'll go ahead and say he will be the Steelers general manager in 2022.
But what signs of leaving would there even be?
I don't know. It's he's been here this long versus, the other.
Right, sure. He's just that dog.
I guess I've followed him long enough now that you can't imagine what life is without him.
It's gonna happen.
Yeah, but it's not like he's like 70 yet either.
But he's been in football forever. And he's well into his 60s, right? I don't know if we know his exact age, but he's not 64, 65.
He's up there, right?
Yeah,
he's not 70.
He's not 70, no. But I mean, he's been in football a long time, so I don't know. I mean, he's been going year to year. Obviously, he could come back, and it wouldn't be much of a shock. But I'll say he retires. I think his plan is to go out with Ben, and I'm pretty sure Ben's retiring.
Okay, all right. Well, we're on the opposite sides of that one. What else? We've got to come up with one other good one here.
Yeah, we got to find one because obviously we both think that Ben's going to retire after the season, right? Right. Okay, so we're there.
Will Terrell Edmonds be on this roster in 2022?
That is a good one, Dave. I know the history of the fifth-year option being declined does not bode well for guys returning, but I think he's going to be cheap enough to re-sign, and do you really want to have to go through the hassle of trying to either draft capital on that position or find someone else in free agency? Long answer or short answer to a long-winded question or a long-winded answer I'm giving here is true. Terrell Edmonds will be a Steeler next season.
I'm going to say false.
Okay. He's playing okay this year. I think his coverage has improved a little bit. It's not great, but it's better slightly.
All right. We've given people enough to chew on as far as predictions go. We got a little 2022 talk in there. Got some draft talk in there. We got some looking ahead Steelers talk ahead in there on top of it. Mike Tomlin, of course, will meet the media on Tuesday. We think that's right?
I believe so. Should be Tomlin Tuesday.
And I think a couple players are talking to the media today. That would be Chris Wormley and Eric Ebron. Both those guys ought to be pretty quotable today. So look for that on SteelersDepot.com as well, too. And we'll start getting into covering more of this Brown stuff. We've reached out to Scott Petrak to possibly be on the Wednesday show to start helping us get ready for Browns and Steelers.
All right, Dave, you want to get to some reader emails and close out today's show?
All right, let's do it here. Ivo G writes in. Ivo says, hello from Bulgaria, Dave. I don't have a question. I just want to express my gratitude towards you, the wonderful guy called Alex Kozora, and the other writers. I've been reading Steelers.com, Labriola, Steelers Depot, and listening to the pod for many, many years. Well, I've never even thought about opening another NFL page. That said, the NFL finally found its way to Bulgarian television, and I am one of the announcers since I work in the media as sports commentator. We started this season with Pittsburgh at Buffalo, and this Sunday we have a second Steelers game at Cleveland. You, Alex, and the other boys prepared me so well over the years, you can't even imagine. It is extremely hard for me to find your equivalent for the Cardinals, Seahawks, 49ers, Browns, Ravens, Bills, and Chargers. All of them had games that I had to announce after week one. He says, Patriots Depot, as you were joking, while talking with admiration about Brady and Belichick in the past, simply does not exist. As a group, you are the best, never change. Sorry for them making mistakes while writing in English, not my best quality. Thank you, guys. God bless you. Don't worry, Ivo. English is not my...
The bar is low.
Yeah, my English is not great either. Boy, what a great... we are helping power Bulgarian television, Alex. Wait till I go down and tell my wife about that one.
What a day for Steelers Depot. But no, thank you, Ivo. That's a very kind email, and we appreciate that support. That means a lot to us. Keeps us going for sure, because sometimes the days get long for sure, but we love what we do, and we love getting to share it with you guys.
Absolutely. Brian writes in, don't be a stranger, Ivo. Let us give us some updates along the way there. Brian Tellini writes in, good morning, David Alex. Hope you enjoyed your stress-free, Steelers-free Sunday. To the question, Najee Harris was obviously drafted to be used heavily and be a main part of our offense, but do you guys feel he is being used too much? Are you concerned he will be hitting that rookie wall in December, and should his snap percentage be reduced a little? Just curious on your thoughts with this, Brian. Brian, I said, look, I'm still not one of those guys that are probably going to ever be a fan of drafting a running back in the first round. However, if you draft one, you better use him, and you better use him in all facets of the game, and the Steelers are doing that. That said, is it practical to play a guy, I don't know, 90% of the snaps in a game? Are you doing yourself any favors in doing that? Probably not. The problem is who do you put on there? Look, this team's probably going to, we think, get Anthony McFarland Jr. back for this game against the Browns. Hopefully he can take some of those snaps off the plate along with either Benny Snell or Kalen Blige, whichever one's left over there. It's okay to continue. He's young. He's probably getting more used to it and all like that. But I don't think it's wise to week in, week out, play him 90% of the snaps. No.
Yeah, even I have been a bit shocked by how much they've used him as truly the bell cow of this team to the just nth degree. But there is a fine line there, and we recognize this team to win has to run the ball effectively. And there was such a big drop-off between Harris to Snell and even Harris to McFarland that when you take that guy off, your offense is worse and your chances of success go down. And you are in a fight right now with little margin for error offensively and just where you're at as a team 3-3. So it is tough to justify not using him as much as humanly possible to give yourself the best chance to win. So it's tough. I get that, but it's kind of just, ends justify the means. And do you sacrifice later to try to win now? I mean, that's always the question. But I think you just have to use him because this is what you drafted him to do.
When you look at these, the draft history by position here, and you look at running backs overall and first round picks, prior, what these are guys that are first round picks, and whether or not they've been healthy already. Clyde Edwards-Helaire already missed time, right?
Yeah, I mean, I think we know a lot of these first round backs do miss time, right?
Even this game the other day against the Raiders and the Eagles, both Josh Jacobs and Miles Sanders left that game with injuries. Now, I believe Miles was a second-round pick. I don't think he's a first-round pick. But how much time has Josh Jacobs missed over the years here? Saquon Barkley and Rashad Penny and Sony Michel.
Yeah, all have missed time. Barkley with the ACL last year being the most significant injury there.
Fournette and Christian McCaffrey.
McCaffrey was healthy early on, but I mean he's really been beat up lately. Has had one hamstring issue, and Fournette. I think Fournette's been relatively healthy in his career, right?
Yeah,
not always super productive, but
right. Ezekiel Elliott, he's missed time.
Yeah, I mean he's healthy this year, but yeah, he missed time. I think last year and maybe 2 years ago.
Now we're to Todd Gurley and Melvin Gordon.
Gurley was running well till the wheels came off, and then the wheels really came off. And who was the other one?
Melvin Gordon.
He was
banged up a little bit, I think.
Yeah, a little bit. I think he's generally avoided a lot of serious injuries. But
you see where I'm going here?
Yeah, like I said, I think most fans recognize running backs do get hurt, and they're not always going to be available to you. But does that mean you don't play him, or does that mean if you play him at 75%, does that decrease your chances of getting hurt? I mean, I guess statistically, but he still has a good chance to get hurt.
Right. I'm all for. Look, you have to play him, but do you have to play him 90% of the time, every game in, game out? Here's the thing: especially with the way this offense is built right now, you need a fresh. You need a capable Najee Harris late in games coming up here. I think. To wind some of these things down here and be able to run the football there. So. Short answer, I think they're overworking them early here. So hopefully when McFarland gets on the field here as soon as this weekend, maybe they can get him some carries and some because obviously it doesn't do you any good to bring the other guy in and not be successful, right?
Right. Yeah. If you're trying to save Harris until late in the game, you might not get to that point if you're not in control of that game early and you're not using Harris enough. I mean, if McFarland plays, which I think he will, I mean, what percentage of snaps is he going to play a game? Like 5? I mean, it's not going to chunk into the Harris's percentage that much.
And the thing is, when McFarland does come in the game, you have to work on getting the ball in his hands too, so it becomes a threat. In other words, just not Najee's off, we don't have to worry about it. You got to have. I think you got to have a 1-2 punch in the NFL, to be honest with you, to some degree.
Steelers definitely do not seem to share that philosophy.
All right, screen game from Hank writes in, hey guys, one thing that stands out between the Steelers and Browns is the discrepancy in the quality of their screen game. What do you see on tape that explains the lack of production with screen plays for the Steelers? That seems like a multi-year problem. Can never tell if it's just lack of execution or if it's lack of quality play along the line that hurts disguise the aspect of it. I'm guessing he's talking more and not tight, because they did a pretty good job with Gentry to get him involved in the screen game the other day there. I'm guessing he's talking mostly running backs, true running back kind of slip screens there.
Yeah, I'm guessing that as well, because they run a lot of receiver screens and run it pretty well. They just don't run a lot of those running back screens. And then B, I think they generally – I mean, it's a little different this year under Canada, but last year, I mean, they wouldn't really have offensive linemen release. Those guys would mostly stay in the block, and then like one lineman would pull out in space, maybe a tight end on a screenplay. Those guys didn't really provide a lot of support. So I think some teams will just have all their linemen release, and if they have a more mobile quarterback and kind of roll out a little bit and wait that play out, then that helps. So maybe a little bit of that lack of quarterback mobility because Ben's such a sitting duck with like pressure right in his face. So maybe that's one reason why they're less apt to do it and less successful in doing it.
All right, Brandon writes in, do the Steelers lead the NFL in pass interference in their favor? Some of these calls, Ben has zero intentions of completing the pass.
I don't know that number.
They definitely don't lead the league in pass interference penalties drawn.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know the numbers on that. I kind of doubt they're first, but I don't know who the leader is and what the Steelers have right now.
I guess the point, trying to make sense of this email, is him thinking that Ben's just chunking it up, hoping for a Joe Flacco or a Carson Wentz.
Right. I mean, they've gotten a couple. I don't know how many they've gotten this year, but I don't believe it's leading the league.
No, I don't believe so either there. I guess he's just trying to make the point more than anything that looks like Ben has zero intentions of completing a pass when he's throwing some of these up there. Let's see if we got maybe one or two more in here real quick here, going through the list. Not seeing anything there. Let's go to the next page real quick. All right, I think we got most of them there. Alex, would be a good time to probably to knock off here. But within that, Alex and I will be back at it again on Wednesday. Hope to have the Browns beat writer on there. Scott Petrak talking and previewing the game. Obviously, we'll be discussing what Mike Tomlin had to say on Tuesday during his press conference and any other press conferences that have taken place since then. Obviously, moving more on into talking about the real and the now as opposed to what's going to happen after the season with this bye week now winding down. It gave us a perfect time to hit on several of those topics and kind of make some early predictions for everybody and do a little bit of draft talk there, I guess, to appease some people. So in the meantime, you can follow me on Twitter at Steelers Depot. You can follow Alex on Twitter at Alex_Kozora. Follow the show at Terrible Podcast. Email the show, theterriblepodcast@gmail.com. If you like what we do and want to donate to the cause, please go to SteelersDepot.com, hit the donate button up right navigational bar. Also, if you like an ad-free version of the site, go to SteelersDepot.com, hit the ad-free button up right navigational bar. For $25, you can have an ad-free version of the site that'll last you 1 year there. So in the meantime, Alex, appreciate your time, and we'll start getting after it for the folks on SteelersDepot.com this week. As always, thanks for listening to the Terrible Podcast with Dave and Alex.